What's up guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg, and I'm really excited to bring you this video taking a look at the Lg V20. So this is an early preview unit, so this is not the final release product, so I'm not going to do a full review in this video. I just want to show you the hardware and all the software features that are available with this device. Now this is a sequel to one of my favorite smartphones from last year, the V10. And once again, it brings a lot of those hallmark features and bumps them up a notch for the V20. So once again, we get that very large display with a second screen, along with high-end audio output and input. And of course, we have all the specs to keep up with all the modern flagship smartphones, but we get a new design, which is mostly metal, and an even better camera system. So getting to the unboxing, I do believe this is the final retail packaging, so you should see this when you buy your V20. It's very nicely done. Just slide the sleeve off, and inside, we have this book-style packaging that opens up to reveal our accessories and the phone. So in terms of those accessories, we do get a USB power adapter, which is quick charge, so this will quickly charge the battery. We also get a USB-C cable, so this is a USB-C device. We also have another compartment for our 3200 milliamp hour battery. So yes, you can install and remove your own battery, which is very nice to have. That's becoming very rare these days. And last but not least, we have the Lg V20, which is wrapped in lots of plastic. Obviously, I think this plastic will look a little bit better when you see the final production version in retail. But for now, we just have lots of pieces of plastic to pull off from the top of the phone to the fingerprint sensor and that sort of thing. And once we get that all cleared up, we can take a look at our phone. We also get a screen shield in this case. So if you want to keep this on, you certainly could, but personally, I don't want it, so I'm going to go ahead and remove it. So obviously, the first thing we have to do here is install the battery. So we have this little button along the side that allows us to eject the metal back panel. So once we pop this off, you can see not only do we have access to the battery compartment, but we also have access to the micro SD card slot and nano SIM tray. I have to say, this is easily the nicest back panel I've ever seen on a phone with a removable battery. Very high quality with these rigid metal materials. So next up, we just need to tap and hold the power button along the back, which is also the fingerprint scanner, to boot up the device and get it set up. Now, part of the setup process is also setting up the fingerprint scanner, which is very fast, and you can set up as many fingers as you want during this process. Also included with my Lg V20 were the set of Bang & Olufsen H3 headphones, and that's because Bang & Olufsen actually worked with LG on the design and audio profile of the new quad DAC built into this phone. So this is a first for a smartphone, so you should have the best audio experience on any smartphone over that headphone jack. Now these H3 headphones are definitely higher quality than most included headphones, with metal drivers and a metal connector, along with an inline remote control and microphone. Now when it comes to audio input, we have a set of tri-microphones for directional audio pickup, which is great for the camera app, so you can actually tell the camera to focus its audio pickup on the front or the back. Now this is a feature we've seen since the Lg V10, but they've actually boosted the dynamic range to 15 decibels, which means there's less audio clipping in noisy situations. And because we have this high-end microphone system, they've also included an app to take advantage of it. So the V20 is a combination of pure metal along with plastic caps at the top and bottom. Now this is military standard 810G rated for resistance to shocks, so it is a fairly durable phone. It definitely feels very rigid and solid in the hand. It has this nice rounded feel, so it doesn't feel quite as bulky and heavy as the previous generation. Now those plastic trim pieces at the top and bottom do look a lot like the metal around it, so it has this nice consistent look. And of course, you need that radio transparency for things like Wi-Fi, NFC, and 4G. So along the back of the phone, we have our fingerprint sensor, which is lightning quick. This also acts as our power button, so you actually press this button instead of just tapping it. My only complaint here is that it's a little too flush, so it's kind of hard to feel for when you can't see the button. Now, very similar to the Lg G5, we have a dual camera setup with 2x optical zoom. So one camera is a standard 60 megapixel sensor with an f1.8 aperture, while the secondary camera is 8 megapixels with an f2.4 aperture. Also included is optical image stabilization, a dual LED flash with laser and phase detection autofocus. Now the great thing about this camera system is that you can get these very wide shots, which are significantly different than the standard camera. So you can see the comparison here when I took a few shots in my front yard. So you can see quite a bit in one shot versus a standard view. This also works in video, so you can switch between the wide angle and standard view lens. You can even pinch in and out to zoom if you want, but this allows you to quickly adjust your view even while recording video. So you're not locked down to one camera or the other while recording. And of course, with 4K video recording and optical image stabilization, video detail is excellent and smooth. On the front, the display is very similar to the V10 from last year. We have a 5.7-inch Quad HD IPS LCD display with a pixel density of 513 ppi. It's a very bright and sharp display. But of course, we also have this secondary display on the top, which is 2.1 inches with a resolution of 160 by 1040. Also right next to that display, tucked in the corner, is a 5 megapixel front-facing camera with an f1.9 aperture. So gone is the dual camera setup from the previous generation. Instead, that's now now in the back. In terms of our buttons, along the left side, we'll find our volume up and down key. Along the bottom right side, we'll find our release button for the back panel. Toward the bottom edge, we'll find a USB-C connector along with a headphone jack and microphone in addition to our single loudspeaker. And lastly, toward the top, we'll find another microphone in addition to an infrared LED blaster for controlling your AV equipment. Now in terms of specs, pretty familiar stuff here. We have a Snapdragon 820 with 4 gigs of RAM. We also get an Adreno 530 GPU. We also have 32 or 64 gigs of internal storage, but of course you have a micro SD card slot which you can expand up to 256 gigs. So if we take a look at our newly calibrated Geekbench 4 scores, you can see that this is a significant improvement over the Lg V10 from last year, so you should see improved performance, especially with Android 7.0 powering this device. So next up, let's dig into the software experience, which is powered by Android 7.0 or Nougat. So this is the very first non-Nexus device I've looked at that is running Android 7.0. Now, the great thing here is that the fingerprint sensor is extremely fast and accurate. You just have to land your finger right, and without a recession around it, it's sometimes hard to feel for. It's a little too flush, but for the most part, the sensor is extremely fast, so you can blow past your lock screen. So if you want to see your lock screen, just double tap on it and you can see what's on your lock screen. So of course, we can quickly access our phone dialer, and as I do that, you can see the wallpaper sort of animates in the background with these effects, and of course, you can quickly launch into your camera app, which is very fast to load. Now, speaking of this wallpaper, this is a signature wallpaper, and this is based on the signature on the second screen I have up here, so that's my name. And in this case, you can see it's an M in the background, although to me it looks like a V, so hopefully they'll tweak this with software updates. Right now it just looks like a V, so I'm not sure what that's about. So let's go ahead and unlock the device or just use our fingerprint sensor to get to the home screen. Now the home screen has a few tweaks here that some may not like, and that's the elimination of the app drawer. But of course you can get that back. But if you don't want to go with the app drawer, they do have this in-app search tool which you can bring up. So this allows you to search for your apps or your contacts or whatever, and it's just a one-stop location for navigating or searching your device, which is kind of handy. Now if you want to return the app drawer, we just have to go to our settings panel and we're going to look for the home section. So under home, we'll actually find different launchers to pick from. So we're going to go to home screen, and then we're going to select home, and we'll see our 3 launchers, home plus the app drawer. So I'm going to select that, and that returns the app drawer. So that's kind of nice. So if you want the app drawer with all of its settings, you can go ahead and do that. Speaking of this app drawer, you can see there's a lot of settings as well from this ellipsis up here. So we can view apps by name, download date, or custom, so you can arrange them as you want, which includes foldering. You can also hide certain apps. So if you want to hide some of these apps, you can go ahead and select them, and once you do so, they'll disappear until you unselect them under hide or show apps. You can also edit or uninstall apps. So for apps that you can uninstall, you'll see that little X next to them. We also have some home screen settings, and under home screen settings, we have a lot of features such as Smart Bulletin, which is off by default. You can also change the wallpaper, the swipe effects, and allow home screen looping. So I've gone ahead and turned on Smart Bulletin just so we can show you how that looks. Now basically, this is an aggregator of all your sources, such as your calendar, your health information, even your remote controller for operating that IR blaster up top. So that's kind of nice to have it right here. Evernote, which is a third-party app that plugs in here as well. Smart Settings, which allows you to automatically automate some of the functions on the phone depending on your location or circumstances. And of course, you have your music player down here as well. Now, if you tap and hold on the home screen, you also get to an editor. So you can drag and drop your widgets, apps, or change your wallpapers. So you can see the live wallpapers that are available. You can even use 360 wallpapers, which basically allows you to load these 360 images and apply them to the home screen, and that will move with your hand. So as you move the device around, it moves in the background, which is kind of a neat feature. So taking a look at our notification sheet, it does pick up some of the design traits of Android 7.0 or Nougat with those edge-to-edge notification panels, and of course you can expand them out to see more information. Up top, you can see all of our quick setting toggles just by expanding them out like so, and you can see we have a top row up here which has all of our favorites in the first 5. Now if you want to modify these, of course you can. Just go to edit and you can move them around, or if you want, you can also drag and drop them out of the window here to hide them from view. And again, you can just drag and drop the ones you want in that first 5 up top. You can also turn off some of the toggles that appear here as well, such as the brightness or volume sliders, in addition to the screen sharing and file sharing buttons. So when it comes to our brightness or volume controls, you can see that they only appear in this abbreviated view, and if you swipe up to open up, they disappear, and instead you get screen sharing and file sharing. So screen sharing obviously just allows you to broadcast the display of this device as well as audio to a wireless TV or monitor. We also have file sharing, which we can turn turn on and off. This basically allows other devices to connect to content on this device so you can access things like photographs, music, or whatever. Of course, we have lots of features up here like Capture Plus, which will do a screen grab for us. So this allows us to annotate the screen grab and save this to our camera roll if we want, and then you can also crop it and resize it. We can also use a 2-finger swipe down gesture to get to our quick toggles as well. And one of them is the Hi-Fi Quad DAC. So you can turn this on and off. So this delivers superb sound over the headphone jack or audio jack. If you want to get to the settings, just tap and hold on it. It takes you right to that settings panel. So again, you can toggle this on and off, change the volume, and you can also change the balance. Now this only works if headphones are connected. So as soon as I disconnect it, you can see that feature goes away. We have other things like a battery saver mode. And if you want to know exactly how this is going to behave and modify it, just tap and hold and it takes you right to that settings panel. So this will actually block the second screen if you turn this on, or you can just go and cancel that, and you can see exactly what we can do to improve battery life. We can also set a threshold for battery saver mode. So this will kick in immediately, or 5% or 15% when the battery reaches its lowest point. Comfort view is a feature we're seeing on a lot of smartphones this year, but basically this strips away the blue light. So the idea is that this will help you to get to sleep at night if the blue light from the phone is affecting your sleep pattern. And of course there are settings here as well. Just tap and hold to get to them. So we have different intensities we can pick from, low, medium, or high. So if you want a really orange look, this will help. And then we also have black and white, which strips away the color. Now in terms of our recent apps here, this does pick up some Android 7.0 features. So for example, if I open up one app and I double press the recent apps button, this actually takes me back to the previous app, which is a feature I actually really like. But the interface otherwise is pretty familiar here. You can see the first app minimizes down below, so you can see the previous app, and then you can swipe through it to see all the apps in the background, swipe to dismiss them, or that sort of thing. Now we also have pinning, so we can pin these apps, so when we clear all, it doesn't remove that specific app. But what I'm going to show you here as well is side-by-side apps. So I can open up one app in one window and open up another app in another window. So if I click Chrome here, now I have two side-by-side windows which I can swipe to resize. Now if I want to change one of these windows out, just tap this again and you can go ahead and pick some other app, or if I tap and hold, this will close the app as well. If I tap and hold again, this will open up the previous launcher and allow me to open up something else. Now, like all LG devices, we have a ton of customization options. So if you tap and hold on an item here and release it, you actually have the option to change the icons. If you want to go with one of the system icons, you can go ahead and select it or add your own. This is also true of folders. So we can change the name and the folder color. So if we click OK, you can see the folder has changed. And we can also add apps from here as well. So if you just want to check the apps you want to add to this folder instead of dragging and dropping them, you can do that as well. So at the very top of the device, we have our second screen. And there's lots of features here. We've seen most of these since the LG V10, but it's always nice to have them. Now, the great thing about the second screen is that it allows you to see your notifications without interrupting what you're doing. This is especially useful in gaming. So you can see your notifications, you can see your clock and time and that sort of thing, all without leaving the gaming app or swiping down to see your notification panel. But there are plenty of other uses for it, such as our signature. So if you tap and hold on here, I can actually modify the signature. I can change the font or just modify the text. And as you can see, if I change the text, this will also change the signature wallpaper. And I can go to settings to modify how this works. So you can see R is the signature wallpaper, but of course I can also just pick one of the standard lock screen wallpapers to bypass that. Now, if we swipe across the screen, we get to different panels. So, for example, this is the widget panel, which gives me quick access to my Wi-Fi toggle, flashlight, and that sort of thing. I can also take a quick screen grab and annotate it if I want. Swiping again, we get to our favorite apps. If you want quick access to your favorite apps, no matter where you are in the system, this is a great way of handling it. And this is easily modifiable. You just drag and drop your favorite apps out of the screen and drag the ones you want. So it's very simple. Swiping again, we get to our media controls. If you're playing music, you have your media shuttle controls, which is handy. We have our favorite contacts for quickly accessing them, and then we have our recent apps. So as I open up my apps up here, you can see that order changes. So the most recent is first, and then I can also just tap on them to quickly jump back to them. Now, if you're within the camera app, you get something different. You get some controls in addition to the main interface, which is also very handy. Of course, there are tons of settings here as well for the second screen. So we just go to our settings panel, and if we go to our second screen, this allows us to turn off this feature or modify it. So for example, I can turn off the second screen when the main screen is on. So as the main screen is on, you can see that's completely turned off. But if I go to the lock screen, you can see that it's now active. And we'll talk about that in just a moment here. But getting back to the controls here, let's jump back to settings. We also have the option to change the content that appears here. So we just go to settings right next to that toggle, and this allows us to turn some of them off. So we have our signature, quick tools, app shortcuts, and more. So if you want to turn some of these off, you can, or you can rearrange them. So if you want to change the order of them up top, you can do that. Some of these also have settings, so you can change the app shortcuts from here as well. You can also change the quick tools. If you want to modify the quick tools that appear here, just go ahead and select them. Now, the only one I don't have added is the camera. So if you want to quickly launch your camera, you can add that toggle and just replace one of the others. Now, when your screen is off, the second screen acts as an always-on display, which shows you your current notifications as well as your date and time and battery status. You can also swipe across on here to get to quick actions for quick access to things like your flashlight and your camera app. Of course, there are settings for this as well, so I'm just going to tap the ellipses next to the toggle so I can actually select the default screen. So in my case, it's date and time, but I can also choose the signature if I want. You can also modify the quick tools on the lock screen, so these can be different than the ones on the home screen. And then we also have daily timeout. So if you want this to turn off on the schedule, you can do that. Now, in terms of the settings panel, you can toggle between a list view and a tab view. Tab view is actually here by default. Now, personally, I prefer a list view, so I'm going to go with that. But this does have some Android 7.0 characteristics. So for example, if I'm navigating through this interface, let's say I'm going to take a look at sound settings. If I want to get to other parts of the settings panel, I just tap this and then I get the entire list once again. So if I want to go to shortcut keys, I can go ahead and select that. Now, digging into the settings panel, I just want to take a look at some of the unique features. So if I go to display, I have the option to change the home touch buttons and configuration. So I can change the combination and add some new features. So for example, I can go ahead and add Q slide or notification, or I can just rearrange the buttons in whatever configuration I personally prefer. So this is highly customizable. We also have Capture Plus, which basically just takes a screen grab. That's a feature I already demonstrated earlier. But in terms of what these do, we can quickly access our notifications, or we can access Q slide apps. So these are mini apps, and I can open up two windows at the same time. So if I open up the File Manager, and then if I open up the Calendar app, I now have two windows I can float around and reposition. I can also resize it, or I can change the opacity here. So it's invisible, so I can see in the background, and I can bring it forward again to interact with the app. Of course, I can also maximize the app for the full screen view, or just close it out. We can also choose to hide the home touch buttons in certain apps. So for example, if I choose Chrome here and then go to the Chrome app, this will actually hide the buttons until I swipe up from the bottom to see them again. You can also theme out the Lg V20, so you can go with a stock or choose something else, and this will explore exactly what this will do. So you can see it changes the color scheme, the icon pack, and the wallpapers. Actually, it's kind of a nice theme. If you want to apply it, just click Apply, and this will load it. So there we go. We get this black and gold theme right down to the notification shade and the app drawer. We also get Smart Clean, which will identify those files you don't need and clear it up for you. Now, when the device is locked, we have our shortcut keys. So with a double press of the volume up button, we get Capture Plus, which is a note-taking app. We also have Camera. So if you want to quickly launch the camera, just double press the volume key. We can also enable Quick Shot, so as soon as you launch the camera, it takes a photograph. So let's go and try these out. So double press the volume up key, launches the Notes app. Lock again, double press the volume down key, launches into the camera app, snaps the photograph right away. So in terms of this camera app, of course, there's a lot of features going on here, and we have these two toggles for quickly switching between the wide angle and standard camera. So the other thing here is that we can actually zoom in and out for the same effect. And if you look at the zoom controller, there's actually a little D10 indicating when you're on the standard view versus the wide angle view. And you can actually see those indicators at the top change as you move through them. So you have optical zoom on this side, and the rest is actually digital cropping. Of course, we can also snap a photograph, tap and hold for a very fast burst shot. Now, if you swipe along the screen, you can actually switch between the front-facing and rear-facing camera. This also has a wide angle or standard view. Now, this does not have a dual camera like the Lg V10 did, but it does have this sort of crop view, which does at least give you options for a wide angle versus standard view. We can also record video, and while recording video, we also have the option to quickly switch between the wide angle and standard lens. So we're not locked down to one camera lens, which is very nice to have. You can also pinch in and out to zoom for the same controls. Alternatively, you can also use this little slider along the side for zooming in and out, and you can also change the speed at which it zooms in. Of course, we also have our manual mode. So we have full manual mode for both stills and video. So in terms of our stills, we have our white balance. We can also manually adjust focus and EV, as well as our ISO, shutter speed, and we can lock exposure or not. We also have our inclinometer and that sort of thing, and you can tap anywhere to take your photograph. In terms of video, this is even more interesting. So we have lots of controls, including our microphone. So if you tap on our microphone settings here, you can adjust the focus of the microphone from forward to back, and you can also adjust some of the other inputs. We also have our white balance in addition to focus, EV, ISO, and shutter speed. And all of this is adjustable while recording video. So you don't have to set this before recording video. You can do this while recording as well, which is very handy. Alrighty guys, so that's going to do for me in this preview of the Lg V20. Of course, I will be doing more once I get my final review unit, so stay tuned to the full review. Make sure you're subscribed, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up to let me know, and I'll see you again in the next video.